The title of tonight's presentation is Mindfulness, Managing Stress During Difficult Times. And our presenter is Carrie Vieira. Let's get started. Thank you, Carrie, for being with us.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Really nice to connect with you all. My name is Carrie Vieira. I am an instructional specialist in our restorative justice team here in Montgomery County Public Schools. And also, though, have been an educator for over 20 years, started my career as an English teacher in New York City Public Schools, where I'm from originally. And mindfulness was a practice I discovered 21 years ago in my first year as a teacher. And it is what transformed my teaching career and changed everything about the way I showed up every day as an educator. And so I'm very delighted to share with you all about mindfulness and to practice together this evening. I do have a presentation that I'll share, and you will also receive the link to this presentation as well, so that you can refer back to it afterwards. So you shared with us in the chat your favorite seasons. We're also going to start with thinking about, as we get into kind of talking about mindfulness, a strategy that you use to either release stress or practice self-care. So if you have something that you do for either letting go of stress or practicing self-care, you can drop that in the chat for us now. So I'm seeing exercise, absolutely. Yoga, long walks, music, gardening, dinner out with friends. Yep, walking. Walking with the dog, reading. Wonderful. I already just feel more relaxed reading about all these lovely activities. Dancing, oh, that's a beautiful one too. So these are all, so we all have strategies and we all have things that we do to harvesting olives in my village in Sparti. Very nice. My family is from Greece as well. So we have all different strategies that we use for practicing self-care and for managing stress. And mindfulness is one such thing we can practice. It has many health benefits, and we're going to talk about it today for practicing self-care. So we're going to start with just a little taste of mindfulness practice, and that is we're going to have 1 minute where we're simply going to just bring awareness to our breathing. What that means is we're just going to, for the next 1 minute, pay attention to what it feels like to breathe. Breathing is something we're doing all the time, and yet we are very rarely noticing our breath. So for the next minute, we're just going to breathe silently and experience what it's like to breathe. You'll notice the mind might pop up with thoughts here and there about all sorts of different things. If you notice those other thoughts, you're just going to gently bring your attention back to noticing your breath and what it feels like to breathe. Okay, we'll have 1 minute. Let's begin. Okay, so that was 1 minute of time. Now, you may have found it easy or challenging to keep the awareness on the breath for that 1 minute. And I think if you found it challenging, or if the mind was just very busy during that 1 minute, that's very common and very normal for every one of us, even myself, who's been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. It is something that shows us that we are moving at very fast paces throughout our day, and our mind has become very accustomed to moving at very, very fast paces. As a result, it's oftentimes darting around to this and this and this and that. And as a parent myself, I'm also an MCPS parent, and I understand, the challenges of working and responsibilities at home. We are on the go all the time, and our minds are racing. And we also live in this digital age where our phones are constantly giving us information and activity in a flash. And so all of that activity there's benefit to it all, but also it can become excessive. And when it becomes excessive, it can actually contribute to stress, overactivity of the mind, and overstimulation of the senses. And so as a result, we end up scattering our energy. We're trying to think about too many things at once. We're trying to do too many things at once. We might have kind of almost like a split experience of our life, where our body is here doing one thing, but our mind is somewhere else doing something else. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you're driving in the car and then you end up getting where you needed to go, and you didn't even realize how you got there because your mind was thinking about something else the whole time. Your body was there driving, doing what it needed to do, but your mind was thinking about the grocery list or this or that. Or we could be in the morning brushing our teeth, but we're not actually there brushing our teeth. The body is there and the hands are there and we're brushing the teeth, but the mind is already planning for the day ahead. So we have these experiences throughout our day where we're dividing our energy out, we're scattering it into many different places, and that can leave us feeling depleted. And so mindfulness is a way of bringing our conscious awareness, our attention, and our energy back here to ourselves, to this moment in time, being here and being as fully present here in this moment as we can be, to see what it has to show us. So noticing our breath and just noticing what it's like to breathe is one such example. But there's so many ways, and we're going to talk a lot more about it. So why mindfulness? Let's think now. We are all parents or caregivers, families with young ones at home. And so from your experiences and interactions with children and young folks today, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges or issues facing young people? Drop some ideas in the chat. What are the biggest challenges or issues facing young people today? Not getting enough outdoor playtime, social media, distraction. Peer pressure, absolutely. Yes. Bullying. Thinking about the future, about their future. Yes. What else have we got? Anxiety, the phone. Yeah, these are all health concerns like COVID, sleep and rest. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for sharing. And so when you think about a lot of what's happening with our young people today, we notice that there are some trends that are happening that are that can be very concerning. And so I'm going to share with you some data here. Losing a loved one, absolutely. There's so much we're carrying, that our young people today are carrying in their hearts and in their nervous systems and in their overall health and well-being. And so if there's anything we can do and we can offer to support them and help them thrive, that's what we're here for. So here are some recent statistics. And again, you're going to have this slide deck so you can look into it and dig into it a little more. But one of you already in the chat put anxiety as a big concern for young people today. And absolutely, some of the latest findings show that nearly 1 out of every 3 adolescents will meet the criteria for an anxiety disorder by the age of 18. So that's 1 out of every 3. That's huge. Trauma or adverse childhood experiences, we have nearly 46% of children in the US who've experienced at least one. That's almost half of all young people today who've had at least one traumatic event or adverse childhood experience. Distraction, this also came up in the chat. You know what young people are dealing with today. On average, US teens spend 9 hours a day on digital entertainment, and that doesn't include any schoolwork they might be doing on devices. 9 hours a day on digital entertainment. And so that's a lot of information overload coming from lots of different sources, sometimes questionable sources. It's also a lot of stimulation and a lot for the mind to process. Isolation. Several of you mentioned social media and peer pressure and bullying. Being in a healthy community with healthy friendships and relationships is so critical to our overall health and well-being. And yet nearly 40% of high school seniors report that they often feel lonely and left out. And actually, just recently, these numbers aren't even reflecting some of the most recent data from just this year, when our Surgeon General put out a statement declaring, I think, sadness or loneliness a national epidemic. And so we have, again, a lot that is impacting our overall well-being, especially the well-being of our young people today. And so we are looking for we're looking at what are the things we can do to build our children's capacity to meet the world and all of its complexity in a way that will help them care for their hearts as well as care for the hearts of others. And so mindfulness can help students with a lot of the things we saw on the previous slide and a lot of the things that you've mentioned in the chat here. It has now, at this point, there have been over 10,000 individual studies that have been done on mindfulness practices. And so the research is showing lots of promising benefits. And these are just a few examples that mindfulness can help students focus better in school and in life. Because again, when we think about right now, if you're on digital entertainment 9 hours a day, that is scattering that mental energy. It's so much stimulation, very hard to focus and to move deeply into one thing when you're constantly having something ding, a new notification of this and that. And so mindfulness is an intentional practice that can help us focus and pay attention and sustain attention for longer periods of time. So it can help increase focus. It can help release stress and anxiety when we practice mindfulness. And we're going to get into more practices in just a moment. But when we practice mindfulness, there are certain breathing practices, for example, that we can do that intentionally help activate the relaxation response in our body. And that can help us release stress. It can help us think clearly and make smarter choices because it's been shown to help us activate the prefrontal cortex of the brain, the part of the brain that is responsible for rational decision-making. It can help us cultivate more positive thoughts. So it can help students, we have naturally a bit of a negativity bias in the brain. And so mindfulness practice can help balance that out and help us cultivate positivity with intentionality, more intentionally. It can help us feel more peaceful, quite simply. And it can also help us better understand and related to that, control and regulate our emotions. And lastly, it can help us better understand others' emotions. So this is all through, different studies, what they've shown. And frankly, if you look at this list, these are all things that adults can benefit from as well. So even all of us, and I say us, like I said, because I'm a parent too, every single one of us as a parent or caregiver can benefit from these, and all people. So what is it, right? What is this word that we keep saying, mindfulness? There can be lots of different definitions and interpretations, but this is really how we think of it here in MCPS. We think of mindfulness as a study of the self. You're the textbook in mindfulness. You go inward, you bring your attention inward. We're so used to looking outward and engaging with the world outside of us. We're talking to people and we're looking out at things and interacting out there. But mindfulness is about turning our attention and our gaze inward and looking in and saying, what's going on in here right now? How am I showing up in this moment? It includes self-awareness, becoming aware of ourselves, the fact that we are here, the fact that we're here in this moment right now, the fact that we're breathing, the fact that we're alive. We bring awareness to all of that. And we start to bring understanding to what's happening, noticing the thoughts in our mind, noticing if we have repeated thoughts that are causing us stress. One of you comments in the chat, worrying about the future, right? Noticing if we have those kinds of thoughts coming up and bringing understanding to it, noticing what does it do to me when those thoughts come up? Does it make my shoulders feel tense? Does it make my jaw lock up? Because we're interconnected. And when a thought comes up like that or a feeling comes up, there are changes that happen to us as a result. But we're usually moving so fast through life that we're not taking the time to turn inward and pay attention and notice those things. So we're bringing increased awareness in to see what's happening. And through that understanding, we develop the ability to self-regulate our emotions more effectively, because we can, over time, we can start to notice, I'm getting angry right now. We can catch that earlier. As soon as someone says something that upsets us, rather than just reacting mindlessly, we can, through the practice of mindfulness, start to notice like, oh, I felt those words in my stomach. My stomach's tightening. I can feel the anger response in my body. What can I do here with this? How can I move through this in a way that's going to not cause harm to myself or others, but honor what's happening here? And there actually are ways to experience those emotions in healthier ways than what we typically do, which is we just kind of lash out with them without processing and really having tools and structures for regulating, at least when we're young. As we get older, we learn processes, and you all shared them in the chat. We might take long walks, we might read, we might have dancing, things that we do to help cultivate more joy. But for our young people, notice figuring out who they are and how they show up and how to manage emotions. It's a big learning journey. We cultivate mindfulness through research-based practices that focus on 3 key areas: body, breath, and mind. So we do mindful movements, mindful breathing, and specific techniques for focusing the mind. There's lots of different types of practices across all 3 of those areas: body, breath, and mind. And we're going to practice one for each area in just a moment so you can get a little taste of it. But at its core, essentially, it's helping us steady the mind and steady the emotions so that we can awaken the parts of ourselves that are the parts that are peaceful and intuitive and aware. We're getting into like the quieter spaces where we have the ability to cultivate great care and compassion for ourselves and for others. So let's actually get a little taste of it. We're going to practice mindfulness together now. And we're going to do 3 different practices. And then we can, talk a little about it. You can ask questions and things like that. But as I mentioned, we practice across 3 areas. We practice with the body, with the breath, and with the mind. Why? Because when we, what we notice through mindfulness practice is that we are an integrated experience. Our body and breath and mind are all interconnected. And you can quickly do a self-check to notice what we mean by this. If you think about, for example, what it feels like to be really worried about something. If you just take a moment and imagined your body feeling really worried, and if you allowed your body to just get into a bit of a worried state for just a moment, you would notice that the body tenses up. For me, you might have noticed that my eyebrows started to furrow, my shoulders got a little tense. What you couldn't see is that my stomach was tightening up, my hands were getting a little tight. And then my breath changes. And then you might have thoughts that are repeating in a loop over and over and over again. These are some examples of things that might happen when we get worried. But if you imagined joy and what joy feels like in your body, the most pure, beautiful joy you could possibly imagine, your body would shift. If you're imagining joy now, your body's not tense, your eyebrows aren't furrowed, right? There's an expansiveness, there's an opening there. You might notice that your breathing changes when you imagine joy. It's more of a big, deeper breath. Very different than how we breathe when we're angry. If you think of like how someone breathes when they're angry, they're breathing forcefully in and out rapidly. They might even hold their breath. And yet breathing in a relaxed state is the opposite. It's very smooth. It's elongated. There's no rushing to it. And similarly, the mind, when the mind is in a stressful or angry state, it has a tendency to fixate on thoughts. There might be a particular thought or experience or memory that it will fixate on and play over and over and over again in the mind. Or if it's in a worried state or a stressful state, it might have multiple thoughts, rapid fire, worrying about this and that and this and that and this and then what if this and what if that and what about this? Whereas the mind in a peaceful state, thoughts are still there, but they don't have that same quality of rushing. They don't have the same quality of being scattered, and they don't have the same quality of fixating on a particular thought that plays in a loop over and over and over again. There's kind of a releasing. And the same thing happens in the body. The same way the mind can release in the restful state, the body can release. So the tension we might have been holding in our shoulders when we're stressed and worried, we can let it go. So when we understand how these things are interconnected, then we can play around with them in a way that's intentional, so that if I know, for example, that my body, breath, and mind all get impacted when I get angry, then I know that if I change one of those things, it can help influence the other two. For many people, the easiest thing to try to change first is the breath. So if I know that, like, if I can slow down and calm down my breath and take a deeper, longer breath, then that might help me release tension in the body. Then that might eventually help me let go of the thoughts that I have in my mind that I'm gripping onto that are making me angry. So when we practice mindfulness, we're practicing things. We have practices with the body that are intentional to try to release tension, to increase our energy, to improve our flexibility, and to strengthen our core muscles. So we might do different types of mindful movements that help achieve these kinds of effects. We have breath work, specific breathing practices that we can do that can create different kinds of effects. We can do breathing practices that will calm the mind. We can do breathing practices that will help us increase our focus. We can also do breathing practices to increase our energy level. So for example, we talked about short, rapid breath when you're angry. But sometimes we can actually leverage that to our benefit. If we have, especially I used to teach high school for many years, and first period in the day, I had students come in and like half of them just wanted to put their head right back down on the table because they would come in so tired. So if we know that, right, we can do different breathing practices. We can actually use those short, rapid breaths intentionally to energize us. So there's different things we can do depending on what we're trying to achieve in that moment. And finally, with the mind, we can do practices that help focus the mind. It can be focusing on the present moment. It could be focusing on a particular word, positive affirmations that we might repeat. It could be focusing on letting go of negative thoughts and increasing positive ones. We can use visualization to focus on positive imagery, or we can simply just focus quietly on the present moment. Maybe we listen to the sounds around us. Maybe we focus on, like we did earlier, the experience of our breath. So anything that just helps the mind come into focus on one thing. So that's how we practice. And we're going to do a little example together. So we're going to do a little practice of each of the three. Spinal stretches to move the body in ways that will help us increase energy and improve the flexibility of our spine and help energy flow more freely through the spine. We'll also do some breathing, 4, 7, 8 breathing. We do some counting with the breath so that we can slow down our exhalations. That's part of what helps activate that parasympathetic nervous system. It's the relaxation response in the body. And then we'll also practice visualization in the mind, how we can focus the mind on what we want to achieve, something positive that we want to focus the mind on. So to start for the movement, this is very gentle and simple. You can do this right from your chair. I'm in a chair, and so I'm going to stay right in my chair, and you don't have to necessarily move either. But I invite you to practice with me. I invite you to give this a shot and see how this feels for you as well. So I scooched back a little bit so that you can kind of see me, and you can give it a try as well. And actually, let me stop sharing my screen for this so that you could see better. Not that I want to be nice and big, but I think it'll just be helpful if you're looking at the practices. So so you see that I'm sitting in my chair, and I'm going to not blur the background has this feature so that you can see how I'm seated. I think this will be helpful. So you'll notice when I'm sitting, and I'm sitting on a moving chair, I don't recommend that, but this is just the chair I have right now here. But I'm going to scooch forward a little bit. So there's a little space between my back and the back of the chair. This will give me a little bit more range of movement for what we're going to do. So just let your hands come to rest, palms facing down in your lap. If your feet reach on the floor, you can plant your feet and just take a moment to feel yourself connected to the ground. Maybe the crown of the head reaches a little to the ceiling and our neck and shoulders relax. Take a big breath in through your nose and just let it sigh out through the mouth. And we're going to begin by drawing some circles with our torso, just drawing some circles with the torso around our hips. That's it. Nice and easy, just making some circles here. So these are gentle movements. We don't need to stress ourselves out. And if anything doesn't feel right for you, especially if you're nursing any kind of injury, please don't do the practices. We're not here to hurt ourselves. We're just here to give some gentle movements if they feel good for you. So as you're making these circles, start lining up your breath with it. So as you round forward, inhale in. As you round back, exhale out. The next time you come around the front, pause and reverse directions. Now return to center, find a neutral spine. Bring a big breath in through your nose. And then let it sigh out. Take a moment to pause and notice how that first set of movements feels for you in your body. And then we're going to do a little bit of spinal flexion and extension. So so the movement's going to come from the spine. We flex and extend by simply flexing the spine forward and back. And so as you come forward, kind of the heart leads forward, and you might lift your chin, you might lift your gaze a little bit. Your palms can be face down on your lap. And then as you round back, you're rounding the spine back and the chin comes to the chest. Maybe you gaze towards your navel. And you're going to move with your breath. So you flex forward as you inhale in, and then round back as you exhale out. And just take a couple like this. These spinal flexion and extension movements can help with improving flexibility of the spine, as well as strengthening core muscles that protect our spine. One more inhale in, exhale out, return to neutral. Take a centering breath, notice how that feels. And we're going to continue to warm up that spine, and now we're going to move it in a twisting motion. So we're going to bring our hands out to the sides and bend the elbows and bring your hands to your shoulders, 4 fingers in front and thumbs in the back. And we're simply going to keep our head in line with our chest, and we're going to take an inhale in. As we exhale out, we're just going to gently twist one side, and then you can twist to the other, just moving in any way that feels natural and easy for you. You can do this faster if you want to move at a faster speed, or you can take it nice and slow. So the head and neck just move in line with the chest. The upper arms stay parallel to the ground. And this one in particular is very, very nice for detoxifying. If you think about the part of the body that we're really focusing the movement on, it's right here around our intestinal tracts. So it can help us stimulate digestion. It can move things along for us along this tract. Take one more on each side. And then when you're ready, return to center. Take one, relax the hands, one more big breath in. Sigh it out. Notice how that feels for you. Notice if you feel any changes or shifts in your body as a result of these little movements. We're going to come up now to the shoulders. So we're kind of moving our way up the spine. We started with kind of these circles that we did where we were opening up the hips and the lumbar spine. And then we came up to the flexion and extension and the twisting. And now we're coming up towards the upper part of the spine where we hold a lot of tension in neck and shoulders. So we're going to do a little tense and release exercise where we inhale in and we're going to squeeze the shoulders up to the ears and hold it. And as you exhale, you're going to abruptly exhale through the mouth and let the shoulders drop. So it's an inhale in through the nose, squeeze the shoulders up toward the ears. You're tensing up and then letting it go on the exhale, blowing it out and really letting it go. Move at your own pace. And just take a few like this. You could do this faster if you want, or you could take it nice and slow. Whatever feels good for you. One more big inhale in, squeeze it, and let it drop. Letting the breath be natural once more. Noticing how every move feels. We're going to take one last move here now, and that's for releasing tension in the neck. We're going to take some very simple neck rolls. This particular move we do slow. Okay, some of the others you can do slow or fast, but this one we always do slow. We like to give gentle care to the neck. So we're going to bring the chin to the chest. And as you inhale in, you'll just slowly draw the ear towards one shoulder and roll up one side, and just honoring the limitations of your neck. As you exhale, you can roll down the other way. And just take some gentle, slow neck rolls here. Keeping in mind that you might notice and hear some snap, crackle, and popping along the way. And this is due to trapped oxygen bubbles at the base of the neck that get released by this movement. You can think of it similar to cracking your knuckles. The next time you bring your chin to your chest, pause, and then reverse directions. Next time you come around and bring that chin to the chest once more, let the head and neck be still. And the next inhale, return your head to neutral. And let the breath settle once more. Find a soft place for your eyes to land now, because we won't be doing any more movement and you won't need to look at the screen. So maybe either close your eyes completely or just let yourself gaze down away from the screens. Taking a moment here to notice how you feel. We're going to do a little bit of breathing practice now from here. So we're going to do a specific breathing practice where we're going to count the breath in, and we're going to double the count on the exhale out. And just do the best you can. It doesn't matter if you don't get all the way there. But we're going to make long, extra long exhales. We'll do a few together, and then you can try a few on your own. So with a nice long tall spine, on the next inhale, let's count in for 4 and out for 8. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Continue in, 4, and out. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Continue at your own pace, counting in for 4 and out for 8. Takes a few to get used to the rhythm, the slow, long exhales, but these extended exhales can help us access a calm response in our body. So give it a try, see how it goes. If you notice at any point that your mind starts thinking about other things, no problem. Come back to counting the breath. Counting the breath in, doubling the count on the exhale out. Let the counting be a way of helping the mind stay focused on this moment. Now you can continue with the practice exactly as we've been doing it, or we're going to offer one more variation if you want to try. The variation is adding a period of holding the breath in between the inhale and the exhale. So we hold, the holding of the breath creates a little bit of space between action and reaction, between the action of the inhale and the response of the exhale. And this helps us find silent space and brief moment of pause before we jump to the next thing. So if you want to give it a shot, it's the same breath we were just doing, but the difference now is going to be that at the end of the inhale, we're going to count in for 4, we're going to hold it for 7 counts, and then exhale for 8. And again, you just do the best you can. Don't worry about it if you don't get all the way to those counts, but that's what we're trying for. So if you want to practice that with us, and if you don't like that, just go back to the one we were doing. Inhale for 4, exhale for 8. So let's try a couple together like this. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, in, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, in, hold it, exhale, and then a couple more on your own. Take one more full breath like this, and at the end of your next exhale, Let all of the breath out and let your breath return to a natural pace. No more counting. Just relaxing the breath, noticing how you're feeling. And we're going to close with a little visualization practice for focusing the mind. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring to mind first a feeling that we want to have every single day of our lives. Whatever feeling that might be for you. Do you want to feel joyful every day? Do you want to feel peaceful every day? Do you want to feel patient, calm, loving, grateful? Whatever word comes up for you that's true for you. Imagine yourself in your mind for a moment. Bring a picture of yourself in your mind, feeling this feeling. So if you chose a word like calm or joyful, bring an image to your mind of what you look like feeling calm or joyful. And see the expression on your face. What does it look like? And we're going to do a little walkthrough here where we're going to imagine ourselves in our bed, waking up to the next day. Imagine yourself waking up to a new day, and you've got this feeling already there. And just imagine in your mind what that looks like. And imagine yourself getting up out of bed, and you've got this feeling in your body. You can see it on your face, and you're taking it with you as you do your morning routine. Whatever you might be doing, if you're brushing your teeth, if you're waking up the kids, if you're making breakfast, all of the things that you're doing through that day and that morning, you're going to see yourself doing it with this feeling always there with you. And see yourself moving through your day with this feeling. Whatever your day looks like, if you're commuting and going off to work, if you're taking care of household chores, if you're going out into the community to run errands, just see yourself moving through a typical day and see yourself carrying this feeling with you throughout all of those activities. See yourself interacting with people in your day, whether it is people at work or people in your community or your family or friends at home. Just see yourself with this feeling in every interaction you have. Imagine even in challenging situations in your day, see yourself still holding on to this feeling so that even if someone says something that upsets you, or you get stuck in traffic, or you have a pressing deadline at work, whatever might happen that might cause a little stress, imagine that you're meeting that moment with this feeling. Imagine yourself being able to get to the end of the day without having lost this feeling along the way. So that as you go through the evening routine and you can see yourself winding down from the day, getting ready for bed once more, and this feeling has stayed with you and it is still there. And imagine yourself drifting back off to sleep in your bed and taking this feeling with you into sleep. And then bring your attention back to your breath. Taking a nice big inhale in through your nose once more. And sighing it out. Giving your fingers and toes a little wiggle. And maybe taking a little stretch in the body if that feels good. Start to bring your attention back to the room around you and blink your eyes open, bringing your attention back to our group. So thank you for sharing that practice, those practices with me and with each other just now. So these were the practices we did. They're just some practices. There's so many different types of mindfulness practices. And so those were just some examples. So we want to, so you can take time to reflect for yourself, which practices worked for you, if you noticed any effects or changes, what didn't work well for you. There are different practices that are going to work better for us than others. And so anything that you noticed is true and beautiful for you. But we want to leave you with some time for questions as well as some resources that you can take away with you. These are some resources for you and your family. We have here a Mindful Moment video series that MCPS teachers and staff have created. They're all here and they're available for anyone in the community that wants to view them. They're all somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes. So if you want to practice more mindfulness at home for yourself or with your families, they are all here. You'll also notice we have a Spanish language video series as well. So we encourage you to check those out, as well as the other ideas and articles and resources and videos here, as well as the research on mindfulness if you're interested.